Welcome to my breakdown and prediction video for the 12-round main event on DAZN and Sky Sport between the UK's veteran Scott Quigg and the Irish Jono Carroll. The first question for me is how many fights the 32 years old Scott Quigg has left in him, after all these years of professional boxing and many taxing wars he's been into. He even took 1.5 years off since his last fight against Mario Briones. Meanwhile, Jono Carroll kept being active and kept on increasing the level of his opposition, earning the valuable experience. For those who don't know me, I'm regularly doing the breakdowns and predictions as well as recreating the moves and skills of the past and present boxers on the video. So if these are the things you are looking for, I'll appreciate you subscribing and hitting the like button. And you can find the link for the playlist of my other breakdowns and predictions for the other upcoming and past fights that I'm constantly updating and adding the new ones in the description, in the pinned comment or at the end of the video. Now the breakdown. Like I said, this is Quigg's first fight since the one he had on October the 20th of 2018 against Mario Briones. Quigg is someone who uses the upper body movement, feints and bobbing on his way to short range. And he also presents something that I appreciate a lot about the UK fighters in general, and that is knowing how to fight at short range, which is something the other European countries have a lot to catch up on. On the inside, when he keeps a tight high guard in front of his face, there is a lot of room to catch him around it with the looping punches. However, he still does a damn good job of defending himself, because that is not the only way he defends himself. And to be honest, he was doing it a lot more in his last fight against Briones than he's doing it usually. In fact, him blocking punches with forearms by moving them up and down in order to catch the upcoming punches from mid-range is underrated in my opinion. After finishing his attacks on the inside, he knows how to smother the opponent's guard with his forearms or with his gloves, which means he's the one dictating when the action on the inside is going to happen, and he makes sure he's the only one working on the inside by smothering his opponent's guard. Not only that, but he's also able to throw a punch or even 2, 3 or 4 punch combinations on his way out of pocket. And whenever allowed by the referees, he also uses the same tactic of smothering the opponent's guard, but this time from long range, by extending his lead hand and placing his lead glove on their guard. He counters the jabs with the looping right hand, shooting it from the hip and moving his head off the line by moving it from above his rear foot to above his front foot during the punch, similar to Canelo's 8-round punch from the first Golovkin fight. And to be honest, he does move his head off the line on his other punches as well, which makes him not so easy to counter. Some other of Quigg's characteristics are: 1. Him being a serious body puncher. 2. Having a good defense from the body punches. 3. Is a decent counter puncher. 4. Has a good overhand right and left hook. 5. Has the ability to deep low and throw the looping shots upstairs. 6. Very often when throwing the overhand right, he also shifts the rear foot forward and at the outside angle. And that same shifting move is useful to him as well when he needs to close the range. He uses the feints and upper body movement to entice the counters from his opponents, on which he steps to the outside angles with the previously described move. On the other hand, I would have to point out that Scott Quigg gets countered with jabs and straight punches a lot, as well as the overhand rights when he's hiding behind his shoulder right after using the upper body movement. This was easy to be seen in his fight against Oscar Valdez. Jono Carroll on the other side was more active than Scott Quigg, like I said. He had 2 fights the last year, one against Evan Farmer on March 15th and the last one against the Mexican Eleazar Valenzuela on August 24th. Jono Carroll may give Scott Quigg a very tough fight if he keeps working at mid-range and tries to keep Quigg off of him, because I've seen him doing a good work at a distance. And although he tends to lead with his punches at mid-range more than he counters, even when he's moving back and when he's being pressured by his opponents, and although not being a natural counter-puncher, he showed me he's able to counter with his southpaw jabs and straight lefts, which are the right punches to counter Quigg with. Just like Scott Quigg with his overhand right, Jono Carroll throws good overhand lefts and transfers his upper body from rear to front foot. He's also good at countering the punches to his head with quick combinations to the body or to vary them up and down. Although he does it, I haven't seen him doing nowhere as much defensive work on the inside as Scott Quigg does, or as good as Quigg does, meaning that Carroll does a good offensive work on the inside, but is not as conscious of the possibility to dictate the tempo of the fight on this side by smothering the opponent's offense in the moments he's not throwing his own punches as constantly as Quigg is conscious of that concept. And I've rarely seen Jono applying the same approach to keep himself safe on his way out of pocket. And don't get me wrong, he's far away from being a technician and from being a world-class talent, but he's still a decent fighter in my opinion and a very solid stepping stone at least. One of his moves that I like is, while leaning on his front foot, he can stick the rear foot further back, and on his opponent's incoming right hand, he can roll it and transfer his body weight to the back foot, and then come up with rear counter uppercut while shifting the weight back to his front foot once more. The prediction time. The first thing I'm going to predict is that this is going to be a fan-friendly and entertaining fight based on both fighters' styles or tendencies, with both fighters preferring to operate at close to mid-range while being offensively minded. Jono Carroll will be looking to find his luck with quick and compact combos against Quigg. Carroll may have some success catching him with straight punches from mid-range, while I think that Quigg would be getting the best of him in the exchanges on the inside. Carroll will try to get off his combos and pivot out on his right front foot, but I would not be surprised if he gets dropped by a heavy-handed Quigg. If he keeps on trying to pivot out on his front foot while keeping his glove at his waist and trying to evade punches with the upper body movement, just like he was doing against the lesser opponents than Quigg. I think that the probabilities of the fight being stopped or going full 12 rounds are about the same, more or less, especially if we consider Quigg's time out of ring. However, I would still slightly favor the stoppage scenario, and I'm favoring Scott Quigg in both scenarios, to either win by stoppage in the later rounds, probably around in between the 7th and the 10th round, or him winning the decision. In any case, like I said, I'm hoping to see a nice, amusing fight. Thank you for watching.